Hey there, Christophe from the French Herbal. Today we're talking about a medicinal plant that I really like for my own use, but also as part of different blends that I recommend. It's surprisingly strong and effective for a list of conditions. It's called sweet flag, also called Calamus in the herbal world, or Acorus for its Latin name, and I will use all of those terms in an interchangeable way. But before we start, just a quick but important reminder, I am not a doctor, a pharmacist, or a licensed healthcare professional. The information I share in this episode is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. Okay, so let's start with a bit of botanical information. Sweet flag is a perennial plant that belongs to the Aceraceae family. And there aren't many plants in that family, just a handful of Acorus plants. Sweet flag is Acorus calamus. And like all Acorus, it grows with its roots in the water, along streams, ponds, and marshes. It's not difficult to cultivate the plant at home. All you need is a large pot that you will keep constantly moist, or even better, half submerged into a large container of water, right? And that's what I do in my garden. The plant can grow from a root cutting, and you can grow that very quickly once established in your garden, right? You just have to keep it wet. The parts that we use are the rhizomes. In common language, we say calamus roots, but we're actually talking about an underground stem that grows horizontally and that sends roots underneath and leaves going up. Harvesting is done in early spring or late fall when the plant's energy is back into the rhizomes. You cut them, you rinse them thoroughly, you brush them carefully, remove all the rootlets, which are less aromatic and a little more bitter. They're not that interesting. Then you cut the fresh rhizomes into slices or small cubes, and you dry them flat on a rack. You can use also gentle heat of a dehydrator if you need to speed up the drying process. But if the heat is too high, you'll lose the aromatic compounds, or at least some of them. Keep in mind that if the smell is getting to your nose, it means it's escaping the plant. Those rhizomes are surprisingly strong, bitter, spicy, and aromatic. And make sure they're still aromatic when you take them out of your storage, especially if they've been sitting there for a while, or if you buy them from a store. Take a small piece, put it in your mouth, let it soak in saliva, and then chew it gently. It should create a slight numbing effect in the mouth, accompanied by a strong pungent taste on the tip of the tongue. It's quite strong. The bitterness is present, but it's nothing like pure bitters like gentian, right? It's much less pronounced. However, the aromatic part, very strong, gives a lasting impression. You can find sweet flag in herbal stores. They'll be cut in small pieces of the rhizome. The dried leaves can be used to make a fairly pleasant tea, but they're far less potent than the rhizomes. In terms of constituents, here is what you can find in Acorus. First of all, there's a very aromatic fraction, right? So an essential oil composed of monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, and phenylpropanoids. And amongst those, we have the presence of beta-acerone. And we'll see that there's a bit of worry around this constituent, right? And we'll talk about it in the precaution in a few minutes. The amount of beta-acerone depends on the plant's growing location. We have a high concentration in Indian and Chinese varieties, and medium to low in European varieties, and nearly absent in American varieties, apparently. All references are on my website as usual. The American variety seems to contain acorone instead of beta-acerone, which has a lower risk profile. We also have a diterpene lactone called acorine, responsible for its bitterness. We have flavonoids like luteolin, apigenin, quercetin. We have saponins, tannins, and mucilages. Although you will not find much of an astringent or mucilaginous taste, right? Those two dimensions, they're not very present. What comes out is the strong aromatics and the bitterness, the energetics, warming and drying. Okay, now let's talk about the properties and indications. We'll start with the digestive tract. Sweet flag is primarily a plant for states of digestive stagnation, right? So the basic digestive processes are under functioning. The secretion of digestive enzymes like pepsin, trypsin, hydrochloric acid, bile is weak, right? There's not enough juices to do the job properly. Also, contractions of the smooth muscles to churn the food are weak and deficient. And if we use the image of the washing machine, there's not enough soap and water in the machine, and the machine is not turning fast enough. The end result is a state of digestive stagnation. The food will sit way too long at the different stages of the digestive tract and will ferment, right? So there are lots of gases being produced. The stomach turns into a fermentation chamber. There are also cramps because the tube will churn and churn, but since there are not enough digestive enzymes, the washing machine is turning without the soap, so it keeps turning and turning, and it will end up in cramping because it's getting tired, right? So that is when sweet flag comes into the picture. You see, it's got all the dimensions that we need to support the digestive process. It's got bitterness to stimulate enzyme production and release, right? So it's what we call a bitter tonic. It's got aromatics to calm the production of gases and cramps. We say it's both carminative, it slows the production of gases, and antispasmodic, it prevents the cramping. Rudolf Weiss, the famous German doctor and herbalist, said that Calamus has a remarkable ability to stimulate appetite and the release of gastric juices, right? So good appetite in your belly, I mean, not in your head, usually means that the digestive tract is ready to accept food. You know, a good, strong appetite in the belly is a good sign. So here the question we herbalists ask ourselves is, so when do we take sweet flag, right? Because you see, if the plant is a pure bitter like gentian, and see my episode on gentian, we take the plant about 10 minutes before a meal. When it's pure aromatics, like thyme and rosemary maybe, we take it during the digestion, when the bloating and cramps are present. But here it's got the two dimensions, right? So what to do? Well, here's what I do in my practice. When there is an overall chronic sluggish digestion, I may add Calamus to a daily blend, whether in tincture form or as a tea, to drink throughout the day. Not a lot of Calamus, but a small portion to support digestive functions. Before meals, I usually go for pure bitters like gentian. And after the meal, if there is lots of cramping and bloating, then I may suggest going back to the tea or tincture of Calamus. Let's take an example of a protocol. So my tea blend could be a mix of angelica root, rosemary leaves, and a bit of sweet flag. 2 cups to drink during the day as an overall digestive tonic. Then I may add a gentian tincture before meals to prepare for digestion. And after the meal, if lots of bloating, stagnation, cramping, then I may go back to my sweet flag, right? A simple tea of the rhizomes. Or maybe a blend of sweet flag, fennel seeds, winter savory, peppermint, actually which would be quite yummy as a mix. So, right, that makes sense? Of course, there are hundreds of ways to combine plants and preparations. I'm just telling you what I do, right? It's not the best way, it's just one way. Here's another point regarding the properties of Calamus on the digestive tract. It is antiparasitic, a property well known in certain traditions, right, which seems to be confirmed by animal studies. So you know how you can go to certain countries or regions of the world and catch a nasty bug because your immune system is not used to those bugs, right? What we call traveler's diarrhea. Then you come back home and the situation lingers. You still have some diarrhea maybe, or you feel like things are still inflamed in your belly. And of course, go see a physician. But also we have good herbal teas to help get rid of those pathogens. Walnut leaf is a well-known remedy, or walnut hull tincture. All the strong aromatic plants like thyme, winter savory, oregano would help, and you can add calamus to the list. Again, you could do a tea blend here, maybe with a bit of dried walnut leaves, a bit of oregano leaves, and a few pieces of Acorus rhizomes to drink throughout the day. So here let's make a little pause and let me tell you about my trip to the Andes mountain range a few years ago. I spent about a month in Bolivia, Peru and Chile, and I was with my older son. We were backpacking and we had been warned, right? Do not eat the local food and only drink from bottled water. And that is not what we had decided. You know, we wanted to enjoy local foods and buy stuff in farmers market and drink the local drinks, and well, we had a nasty case of traveler's diarrhea. And we were doing a lot of bus trips, you know, like those 10 hours bus trip, fighting mentally to hold it in and gobbling up loperamide tablets, which is an anti-diarrhea drug, just to survive the bus and the bloody winding road and everything. So I remember one night we were staying with the locals around Lake Titicaca, and our hostess, an old lady, she just took pity on me. I just looked so miserable. She told me to come with her, and she showed me a plant growing nearby. She called it La Muña. And then later I found out it was Minthostachys mollis, which is a very strong mint. She told me to drink the tea of it, and gosh, that felt so good. Back home, it took me a few months to actually get rid of the diarrhea, but I did, and those calamus roots, let me tell you, they really helped me to find relief because I had a lot of spasm, gas, and Acorus probably contributed to getting rid of the bad bugs as well. So that's my story. Thank you, La Muña, and thank you, Acorus calamus. All right, so let's stay with the digestive tract and talk about ulcerations this time. Sweet flag can be used for ulcerations of the esophagus, stomach, or duodenum. It seems to have a mucous membrane repairing properties, right? It's also known to modulate gastric acidity, stimulating production when the stomach is underactive. We talked about that, but also calming excess acidity, which can be good when there are ulcerations. And you can combine it with other excellent mucous membrane restorative plants such as calendula, centella, and plantain. A quick pause to let you know that you can grab my free ebook on preparing herbal teas for the 4 seasons. It's full of simple recipes and blends you can make with herbs you can buy or even grow almost anywhere. The link is right below this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about menstrual cramps. Acorus roots can help relieve those cramps. Put it in the blend if you can, you know, that will be a little more elegant. Maybe with angelica, a bit of sage, a bit of yarrow, a bit of ginger. And you need to take this blend as soon as the pain and cramps begin and drink it generously throughout the day. Of course, if you just have calamus, it could help as well on its own, and we'll talk about quantities and preparations in a few minutes. Plus a hot water bottle in the belly and any other interventions that make you feel better. During a winter infection, sweet flag will act as a warming diaphoretic. It will support colds and other winter infections, and it also has antibacterial and antiviral properties. And here is an interesting indication that we got from Dr. Cazin, one of our famous herbal docs of the 1800s here in France. He says to take Calamus during the tonic phase of catarrhal infections. And well, we've already seen this indication of sluggishness and atony for the digestive tract a few minutes ago. So here the same concept applies to the respiratory system. After an acute inflammatory phase, the person may enter an atonic phase where the organ, so here the lungs, lacks the energy to function properly, right? And this state can occur at the end of an infection with lingering symptoms and a lot of tiredness. So here the aromatic strength of sweet flag can then improve overall circulation around the organ and facilitate healing, expectoration, and the end of the crisis, right? And remember that in the context of winter infections, herbs should be taken regularly throughout the day. At the end of a bronchitis, for instance, you could formulate a blend that is a little on the energetic side, right? On the strong tasting side, maybe with a good strong thyme, elecampane roots, and sweet flag. That would be good. And please go see your doctor if things are not improving. Now, sweet flag's action on the nervous system is quite interesting. First, it has a calming and anxiolytic effect, but it also acts as a memory and cognitive stimulant, right? And it is also a neuroprotective agent. So it calms you down while centering you and enabling you to think more clearly, while also protecting the central nervous system, right? Very interesting. If you want to go a bit further in Calamus' action on the mind, I will link to an article written by Jim McDonald. And if you don't know Jim's work, well, only he can write this type of article. It's just a masterful blend of herbal wisdom, storytelling going across cultures, and weaving in personal experiences. It's warm, funny, accessible, and well, it's just Jim, right? So link on my website. Now back to Calamus. Applied externally, sweet flag can help resolve infected wounds or chronic ulcers, such as venous ulcers. And it's not surprising given its very powerful aromatics. And you could combine it here with calendula for an even stronger action, say 50% sweet flag, 50% calendula, or maybe other combinations using resinous plants. Resinous plants, very, very good. They're broad spectrum disinfectant. Or propolis, very resinous too. Sweet flag is antibacterial and effective against certain problematic strains like Staphylococcus aureus. One last indication from our famous French herbal doc Jean Valnet. He mentions using a compress of the tea for bone conditions. And he underlines this, right? Meaning that it's quite important to him, but it's very vague. What does that mean, right? Bone condition. I don't know. If anyone knows how it could be interpreted, please let me know. Leave a comment. In terms of forms and quantities, you've got options. First, a tincture of the dried rhizomes, prepared with a ratio of 1:5 and 60% alcohol. See Michael Moore's Materia Medica. Let me give you some dosage from French references. And you don't need to write this down because it's on my website in the article associated with this episode. Fournier recommends 20 to 50 drops before or after meals 3 times a day, and he says do not exceed 50 drops. Valnet recommends 50 drops before meals or after meals. You can use the tea of the dried rhizomes. Valnet recommends 1 teaspoon per cup. Not a tablespoon, a small teaspoon. If too strong, lower the quantity per cup and go easy if you're not used to the taste. Again, it could be quite strong, 3 cups per day. How about the wine? 1 part rhizome to 10 parts wine in weight. You let it macerate for 8 days and then you filter. The dose is 1 wine glass before or after meals, and go easy on that, please. I'm just mentioning it because it's part of the French tradition, right? What did you expect? Finally, the raw plant. You can use a piece of dried rhizome kept in the mouth and chewed gently, or a powder, either mixed with honey or in some food like applesauce. And in terms of quantities of the powder, Fournier says 0.5 to 2 grams per day. Valnet says 2 to 4 grams a day in a syrup. Personally, I like the tea and the tincture, and when I discovered the article from Jim McDonald, I started to chew on the root. So Jim, if you listen to this, just know that your influence goes beyond the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, let's talk about the precautions. There has been much discussion about the beta-azarone content. Studies in rats show that this isolated substance is carcinogenic if you give lots of it to those poor animals. Obviously, extrapolation to humans is very unclear, and there does not appear to be any incidence in populations that regularly consume sweet flag. For instance, in India, a country that uses this plant quite extensively. That being said, we will apply the following precautionary principles. Use primarily short-term and not in long courses, or if you do need to take a long course, then use it as part of a blend and not as your main herb, which will allow you to take less of it. Do not use in children, pregnant or breastfeeding women. As I said a few minutes ago, when we talked about constituents, it seems that the American variety does not contain much beta-azarone and can therefore be used without this restriction, whereas the varieties you might buy from China or India contain much higher levels. So, and American friends, feel free to correct me if necessary, in case what I said is not correct. And that is it for sweet flag. Take a tiny piece of the rhizome, put it in your mouth, and feel the power of vacha. Yeah, that's the Ayurvedic name, in case you wonder. Thanks for being here. I will see you soon for the next episode of The French Herbal.